I would really love for you, because I feel like you to know more about the questions that you would like answered relative to a film that is done but also still flexible. And so what we are going to do with your help is open out this talk to you so that we know what you loved, and so they know what not to take away in the future edits. But what I want to, where I want to start is with the initial desire to have it be a piece that had many dancers and that filtered itself down to this relationship between two people, which was really three people because you were always present.
Thank you, Claudia Rankine. And thank all of you for joining us tonight for our first screening of Touch of Red Recollection, directed by Taylor Antisdel, featuring me. I think that with this, the importance to document it for me felt essential because it was a work that we were creating in 2020, where it was a time where I thought, I was unsure whether live arts would ever be possible again. I don't know if y'all felt that, like how are we ever coming back outside? So I thought maybe that the film, sharing the sort of elusive nature of a creation process, could actually function and serve as an artwork in itself. And I had seen Taylor's work before, and I thought, come on into the studio and be with us, and let's see what comes of it. But I also felt it was meaningful for me to really share space and to cultivate a space through film as well with Tashrik Fredericks, who's, as I said in the film, sort of my childhood best friend that I never had. And I was really inspired to create this work with him because I learned and discovered so much about male intimacy and the complexity with friendships and partnerships, and how not through violence or combat, but through an enhanced electricity and interest in each other, we can allow ourselves to become more vulnerable with ourselves and with each other. And that's asking a lot. So, and the work was asking a lot of me physically, as I sat there, to choreograph on yourself, and to ask yourself to do 10 rounds of a work that is kind of nonstop physicality was almost impossible for me. So that impossibility allowed me to come up with the idea of having many men of color perform this duet over time, and that became very quickly understood that that feat was a match that was probably mostly capable of being actualized between Tashrik and I.
Were you present during that early stage with the transition from the four to obviously you were because we could see it. What did you feel in the difference?
Well, I think some of those moments happened off screen. And so in talking with Shamel and then kind of looking back through a lot of the footage, I was starting to understand some of the difficulties that were happening. So I feel like in the moment I had kind of tunnel vision, and then in this kind of recollection process, it became much more clear some of the difficulties that were happening.
You don't actually tell us what the difficulty was. No. We just know that it was difficult. But maybe that's private.
A different cut.
A different kind of film. The other question I had was about the boxing. I know it ended up finally maintaining the boxing metaphor in its now present version. Was there ever another kind of metaphor that played behind there somewhere? Because I know you referenced Claire Denis' Beau Travail, and this idea of men in combat, jealous of each other and working out together and training together, and then finally breaking apart.
Yeah, Claudia Rankine actually showed me that this movie of Claire Denis, Beau Travail, and when we were working together, and I was really inspired by the solo dance scene at the end. I don't know if you've seen this movie, so I won't spoil it. But yeah, you know, the dance solo happens to "This Is the Rhythm of the Night," and I spend a lot of time dancing at night, and also in different places around the world, and mostly with Tashrik. But I would say when I would come home, when I would return home to Brooklyn, somehow there was always boxing on TV, and I had so much disdain from it. You know, it was like
Whose TV? Your TV?
my family's TV,
Okay.
ain't my TV. I didn't have TV, but yeah, but it was just always on, and it was always on, and people were always watching, and I would always walk away, and I would turn off the TV, because I had such disdain, and I guess I didn't understand, but I did understand why it was so meaningful and such entertainment value for people to watch two men of color, especially get into a ring with each other and beat the crap out of each other. I thought like the violence and weaponization of bodies was really gross to me. But you know, whenever I have a sense of opposition towards something, at some point I try to like not allow that opposition to create a wall between us, but hopefully to become a bridge. So my curiosity, when I would turn the TV on, what I saw was a beautiful dance between two people, and you know, like incredible boxers like Muhammad Ali says, "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee," and he has this incredible footwork technique in boxing that. So he's dancing, and I started to sort of research his dancing, and I found an immediate correlation between boxing, the quick footwork, and Lindy Hop, which is this African American dance of couple that's based in swing dancing. And then with this partnership where the two men or two people always sort of hold hands and move very quickly, I also felt an immediate connection between how I dance at night with Tashrik. So I started to make these threads that then became like this larger question of touch of red, which is what happens if two men of color get into a ring with each other and there's a match, but the match is not met out of aggression or violence or maybe a different sense of nuance of combat, but there's a sense of seeing each other as individuals and becoming stimulated and ignited and inspired by each other's next to each other. And how could this connection offer a space of electricity and enhancement that then leads into a sort of softening into the power of vulnerability?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You use a phrase in the film that I can remember the end of it, but not the beginning. It was something like, X should not lead to canceling.
Oh, prioritization.
Should not lead to cancel, which I love.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
That matters. If you love words that I use, that matters a lot.
But that sort of speaks to the idea of engaging the boxing despite feeling like it's problematic, you know?
Yeah.
To prioritize the kind of readability of it over the rejection of it.
Mm-hmm.
So those were my my beginnings, but we can't stay very long because I say so. So I thought we would open out to questions immediately. Let me start here.
Thanks for the film. It was really informative and inspiring. But the obvious question is, what are you ready for?
That is the question. I think I'm ready to be. I'm ready to cut. Yeah. I think there's a lot of preparation that it takes to create a work, and there's a lot of a multiplicity of self that comes up for me when I create a work. And I think I feel a bit more ready to embrace my multiplicity without canceling any parts of myself or allowing others to cancel. I think that, this sense of letting go of old ideas and practices that could be harmful to oneself or others, for better new ideas that brings more sense of totality of being, also in relationship to others, feels like what I'm ready for.
And night dancing, apparently.
Always.
Thank you so much for this experience and to witness your amazing work. It was a pleasure to watch. And my question is, how has the experience been, or has there been a try for finding also other dancers than the two that we saw?
No, I think I'm good with Tasha.
How so?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of questions that came up at the beginning of creating this work were questions that were also responding to the times, which was a time of quarantine, and me trying to be creative towards coming forward into my purpose, which is live art mostly. So this idea of bringing many casts of men of color to perform the work is still of interest to me. But what I love about premiering a work and performing inside of it is that it's alive, and it feels like the performances are endless discovery, that each performance becomes its own thing, that heightens, like practice makes progress. So the more I get into the work, the more actualizing I become, the work becomes, and I become inside of it. So it felt like that is a lot already. And that Tashrik and I, we've been doing this work now for several years. We sort of grow and mature into it. And and the experience of bringing two of my close friends, to learn this work, who are also two close friends and that are no longer close friends, was still something I'm dealing with. And I'm really grateful that this work allowed space for Tashrik and I actually to grow even further in our friendship.
So if that was the difficulty that was resolved in a kind of knowing that you could do it and the two of you could travel, what was the difficulty in the filming of it?
In that, like,
In the filming of the, because you were tasked with the idea of filming intimacy, filming the growing intimacy, and maintaining that feeling for us in the audience throughout the film. So what was the hardest part of that?
I mean, I think initially we were getting to know each other on camera. So that was a totally new experience for me. And so we had many sessions of just talking and recording those without a camera and just trying to kind of get a rapport going. And then also, I think, wanting them to feel comfortable when I'm in the space and not interjecting or getting in the way, but at the same time fighting for moments that I wanted or that I thought were beautiful. And sometimes the coverage of that is like inherently pretty invasive. And so it evolved over time, and I think, we did the interview last, and this was quite a bit after we had kind of stopped shooting. And I think the outcome of that was super informative for me because we had both had time to kind of think about the whole process, and mine from more of a visual perspective. And I think Shamel's expressed verbally, marrying those two together was super interesting to me. And at that point, our relationship was more intimate. So I felt more comfortable asking all sorts of questions that, you know, some you see and some you don't.
Hi, beautiful film. Thank you for showing us that movie today. I wanted to ask you, Shamel, one of the things that really touched me in the movie was the acknowledgement when you felt, I'm a bit older for this. This is actually a bit of a physical toll on me. And as a former dancer myself, who no longer dances, used to be a professional break dancer, I know what it's like to be like, I can't do this like I used to do anymore. But because I've stopped, I actually don't know the limits of where I can go and where I can't go today. Whereas you continuing to do so actually do know where you can and can't go. My question is, what do you think that you have brought with your age to the performance that potentially a younger version of yourself, say 10, 15 years ago, wouldn't have known, would have been able to do, wouldn't have been able to bring to this performance? And also, if you were to think about what that younger version would have done in, say, Touching Red, how might that have differed? How might they have actually executed that performance?
Good question.
Thank you for that question. I think a total sense of being present is what I feel that I'm capable of now. You know, like say less, do less, and have that ripple far. I think because this work is so much endurance as well, I try to practice being present and aware without exerting so much energy, but being full out there. I think sometimes when I'm performing, Tashrik, you know, he's 30, I'm 40. And, you know, in moments of heightened physicality and we're in close proximity to each other, I notice that his breath is like, you know, which makes sense. And then that kind of like allows, and then I check in with myself too, and I sense like I'm really calm. And I think, yeah, this sense of feeling home in performance is something that I've grown into in a large way, and being able to sort of manage how much energy I put out. And also, as I said, like for me, practice also makes progress. I'm always amazed by the sort of possibilities of the human body as this almost supercomputer, right? It's so even if my mind and thoughts and feelings tell me that this might not be possible at my age, when I listen to my body, it gives me what I need.
One last question.
Hello.
TT.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. As much as I knew about it, I also knew nothing at all. So yeah, it's super informative. But I guess, yeah, me being black and queer and male, it resonates with me on many levels. And then to also hear that you were inspired by Maya Angelou's We Wear the Mask. And her just speaking about like this survival apparatus, just curious if there's more to say on that, or yeah, just how that resonates for you.
Yeah, thanks, TT. TT is one of my favorite DJs and musicians ever, and also is one of the stylists for Touch of Red. So it's great to see you, TT. Yeah, you know, when I was watching boxing too, I was really aware of how much laughter there was and cheering in the audience. And then I was kind of also like, why, what's so funny? And then I noticed in my family too, you know, how much laughter there is at home and how much laughter there is out of home as well. And I'm always kind of like, maybe I'm too serious, but I'm like, what's so funny? Why is everyone laughing? And I think I remember practicing with Tashrik after he had this dream of us laughing uncontrollably together, us kind of laughing so much with each other to the point where it became like we were crying. Yeah, I think that, finding the Maya Angelou, We Were a Mask, which was based off of, was it Paul Laurence Dunbar, right? The poet, yeah. I learned a lot about, actions that come from our body that are there to protect our bodies. And laughter is also a way of, connecting to others, right? But this sense of unmasking also feels like I was able to do inside of this work with Tashrik. And the unmasking too didn't come with seriousness, although we were in this match, but also lightness as a virtue.
Okay. We're gonna head out to dinner soon. But the last thing I just was thinking while you were speaking, this idea of touch, and I remember when you performed it, Touch of Red, at the Armory. And we did it in front of the children, remember, those boys? And there were these teenage boys who came to see a kind of pre-performance, and they couldn't watch it. They looked at the floor, they looked at the ceiling, but they couldn't look at these two men dancing. And we talked a lot about that, because it was striking to everyone. But since making this piece, do you find yourself closer to others in general? Like, have you developed a practice of touch? Or is it just you and...
Yes, touch with consent. but also, I think that, it's a sense, and in some regard a question if it's maybe the most essential sense. When I look at adults, without getting too political, I'm always questioning, like, who has hugged this person? Like, has this person ever been hugged or touched or offer that to others? I think there's something so primordial and human, right? And and it goes through the skin, like how we can, also touch, receiving touch from, like, the sun, receiving warmth from the sun. So it's not just people or, but I think I'm much more aware of the innate qualities of this huge sense of touch, not just with people, but also with environment and nature and animals. And
Well, you have touched us. That was a setup. And thank you so much. Next Friday, Kevin Kwashi will be here talking about Black aliveness, or poetics of being. I hope you can join us then. I hope you have a fantastic and restful remainder of the weekend, and stay safe. And when this comes out, that will be the next time you see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Really nice.